You got to listen to this. I'm talking about houses under 400,000, especially in Niagara. Listen and buy because they don't last long. Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with REMAX, the Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Niagara Edition with host Tim Dennis.
And a good day to you, wherever you happen to be listening. We're going to talk all things real estate today with Rob Golfi. And, of course, we're going to get to some answers to your questions. We're going to look at what's been happening in the headlines about what homes are worth what these days. And we're going to talk about a little bit about mortgages a little later on. We're going to talk about bad tenants coming up. And we'll start, as we always do on the show, with what has been happening in the week since we talked last, Robert.
Well, stats have come out, and things are looking good. I think the worst is behind us, and I think people still have a chance to jump in before interest rates actually start coming down, maybe mid to late this year, because prices have settled. They've been floating, basically, within 20,000 up and down in the past six months, and I got you the benchmark price. So, for instance, like in Niagara Falls, 6 months ago, it's at 568, 593, 585, 592, and in January it bumped up to 611, and then it came down to 589.5. So it's bouncing. So right now, that's the benchmark. That's the number that is basically the bottom of what we're at. Otherwise it would have just kept coming down. So when they do an interest rate increase, it'll probably climb a bit, but they're going to be watching it very closely. But the signs look good. Like, for instance, unit sales are up in the majority of the cities in the Hamilton, Halton, Niagara region, but prices, and they're holding strong. They're not. A lot of them are up, a lot of them are down. So it's balanced out. So we're in a balanced market, and if you're selling, basically, that your house is worth what it's worth. That's what it's worth today. But if you're buying something else, that house is going to be worth probably, I'd say, between $20,000 and $50,000 more at the end of this year, possibly. So things are looking up, and so right now in St. Catharines, the benchmark price for the year for February was $584,500. Now, last year was $590, so it was very close, very close. Now, Niagara Falls, last year it was higher. Last year in 2023 February, $631,500. This year it's $589,500, so it's down 7%. Now, Welland is also down. And what happens is, in these lower price markets compared to the GTA and any other areas outside the Niagara, sometimes they get a little bit of a boost, and then it has to readjust itself because it jumped too much. And that's why in some markets we're down 5 to 7% year over year from last year of February. So the lower the market, the bigger the adjustment that usually happens, and it's just because the market climbed too fast, too much, and it has to readjust itself. But I really truly feel, I'm excited, I'm happy that the worst is behind us. It's like going through like a storm that never ended. It's like the blizzard of '77. Tim, remember that we had to go through that for about a week or a week and a half.
Yep.
And it's like that. It's like everybody had to stay home. Everybody had to deal with it. You see the only snowmobiles cruising around the streets back those days. And people probably are laughing about that because that was, I was a little kid when that was happening, man. It was, to me, that was a fun time. I was building like tunnels and along the side of the driveway for doing, digging holes, making like little caves and stuff like that with the snow. But But that's basically it. The worst is over. Things are going to start being solid and balanced, and so people, and I think this is an opportunity. Same thing as last year, at the end of last year, even more so. But opportunity to maybe get into the market, and then when interest rates, just lock in for a year. When interest rates come down, you renew it at a lower interest rate, and always. And always,
go ahead.
One last thing. Always, when you're renewing, tell them that you're shopping around. Let them know that, so they give you their best interest rate.
No, that's great advice, because quite honestly, if they don't know you're shopping around, they may not give you their best.
They just renew it automatically, whatever whatever the bank is doing. So,
do you worry that everybody is going to come out of the woodwork at the same time?
That's the problem. And that's why you got to go out now. And people will come out, and people are starting to come out right now, because if you wait till the interest rates are down, you're gonna end up paying more money for the house, and then there's the more the demand, the prices are gonna start climbing, and that's why they're not putting the interest rates down now, just because it's a spring market, people are coming back, the confidence level is high, and otherwise there'll be a surge in the market, and it's gonna defeat the purpose. But they have to do it. They need housing out there. They have to build houses. And if they don't do something, it's going to get tougher and tougher with the shortage of homes, with the immigration. They haven't stopped immigration. They're still bringing people in, but they're not building houses. So they're going to have to build these little huts in these farm fields just so people can stay there. They're already occupying hotels all across the country. They've got people in hotels. And can you imagine, us as taxpayers right now are paying a hotel room for people that are waiting to find a place to live? So if you think about it, in Niagara Falls, how many hotels are there? We don't know how many. We know there's hotels filled with immigrants and refugees in these hotels. And let's say the cheapest hotel room, okay, which let's say $200 a night, maybe? Is that what the hotel's charging the government?
Depends. If you're in one of the motels, it's not quite that, but yeah, you're right.
Let's say 200. Okay, so 200 times 10 is 2,000 times 30. It's going to be 3,000. No, it's going to be 6,000 a month.
Yeah. Does
anybody pay $6,000 a month for rent on a house? No, but we're paying that for each hotel room, for each family or couple that is staying in a hotel. It's a hush-hush thing. Nobody knows about this. Nobody's writing about this. Nobody's saying, like, how much is this costing the taxpayers of Canada with these hotels? And it's cheaper for them to build. You can go to Amazon and buy these small little houses. It's probably cheaper to buy those and put them in there temporarily on some vacant lot someplace than it is to keep them in a hotel room. And these hotels, I mean, they got rich over COVID because of it. Like, I mean, they're already rich, but they got even richer because of it. And so why are they using hotels? Like, I mean, like, hey, slow down the immigration for now. Let's get caught up, and then let's bring it back in. Why are we, continuously causing problems for our country?
The argument is if we don't continually bring people into the country, there aren't going to be people to take the jobs that are out there, and there are lots of jobs.
Yeah.
But again, low income jobs at this point. But
yeah,
the argument is just this eternal circle. Speaking of homes here in the region, I was reading a story the last couple of days that I didn't think I'd see this, but a majority of the homes in Niagara now cost over $500,000.
I know, eh? Isn't that crazy? It is very expensive, and it's crazy. It says so. For instance, looking to in St. Catharines in 2013 numbers, nearly 97% of the homes were estimated below 500,000. 97%, whereas a decade later that fell to 30%. Now, homes between 500 and 750,000 saw the largest increase at 49%. up from 2.2% in 2013, with homes increasing in value up to $1 million, representing 14.4%, up from 0.6%. So Niagara Falls housing market just a decade ago saw 97.4% of its homes priced at less than $500,000. But today that number is 22%. That is crazy. And for instance, right now in Niagara Falls, and I just did this under 400,000. If you're looking for a house for 400,000 or under, now I excluded condos, like apartment style condominiums. If you're looking for a house 400,000 or under, there's only 2 available in Niagara Falls right now. 2. In St. Catharines, under 400,000 there's 12 available right now. And in Welland, there's only 8 available. I'm going to tell you something. These homes, I would buy and try to find a deal, because those prices are going to go up. This is the fastest way to build equity, whether it's an investment or if it's just to move into. It doesn't matter what parts of the town, because you know what's happening? All the bad areas of town are cleaning up because of people moving into this country. All the, they say the north end, whatever, south end, east end, west end. There's always one end of the city that is older, and usually it's lower income, but those places are getting cleaned up. I personally think, as an investment, if you can find a house for 300, 350,000, 375, buy it, and within 2 years you'll make 50 to 100 grand on that. No problem. Done. Get in, get out, and you'll make money on that. Those lower price properties build equity fast because there's more buyers in that price point, and so now that I sold everybody else on it, I'm going to look into it now myself.
Yeah, exactly. He's just sold himself, folks, right in the middle of the show. Yeah, he's one of the reasons why the prices are going up. Is that one of the reasons why that people are having a hard time finding rental units? So they're looking at maybe I can buy a home. I can't find a place to rent, and if I do find a place to rent, it's really expensive. I may as well buy a house. Yeah,
like the rental market is high right now. There's no doubt about it. There's a shortage of rentals out there. People aren't buying them, and landlords are a lot of them are getting out of it because of the tenants. But it is like a lot of we have a low vacancy rate, high rent growth situation is happening in Niagara, population growth. It's just we've got so many variables that are happening in this country, and especially in Niagara, that it's going to take for a long time.
So let me ask you this, because I know a lot of people were hearing you say just a few minutes ago, if you can find a house, in the 300,000 range or 400,000 range, that kind of thing, grab onto them right now. Are there any?
There are, yeah, there are. So far this year, in Niagara Falls, 16 homes sold under 400,000. I'm talking as of today, 16 of them sold. In St. Catharines, 20 under 400,000 sold, and then in Welland, 22 sold under 400,000. Now I remember, and I'll tell you something. This is the one state of thought. I remember I was on Drummond Road and Dunn Street in Niagara Falls. I was there looking at one wartime house, no basement, and there was this property. I was looking at it. This was years ago, like prior to COVID, maybe 7-8 years ago, and I was looking at buying this property. But you know why I didn't buy it? Because of $5,000. Now those houses are going for $400,000. It was, and the price was $126,000 or something like that. I was worried about $5,000 on a $125,000 house. I should have bought that. I could have put maybe $10,000, $15,000 into it. This place would be worth maybe $400,000 today, $450,000. I'm telling you, it was nice. It had 2 bedrooms, beautiful. It was just right near that area done in Drummond Road. There's a lot of wartime houses there, And I was looking at that, and then there's some in St. Catharines too. I'm telling you, those low priced properties are the best ones to buy right now.
And I mean, they're tougher to find, obviously, in that price range, and that's why they're going quickly. I mean, is there an area of Niagara where you're going to find more of them?
You got to wait till they come up. You know what the strangest thing that I noticed when these things were coming up, that it took sometimes 14 days to 20 days to sell. You jump on that and you go hard and aggressive and negotiating, you will get a good deal. You will. I'm telling you.
Attention all realtors and real estate enthusiasts. It's that time of the year again. We are hosting our highly anticipated Win in Any Market event. Get ready to elevate your real estate game like never before. Join us at this luxurious Liana station in Hamilton for a morning filled with insights, strategies, and networking opportunities that will take your career to new heights. You can expect to learn from industry legends such as Mark Salerno, Madeline Towns, Matt Campoli, and Dave Hutchison, who will join the influencer panel and discuss modern day marketing and what that means for our real estate game. Our keynote speaker, Dr. Nick Bontis, professor in strategy from McMaster University, will provide valuable insights and actionable tips to help you work smarter, not harder, and of course, an exclusive panel with myself and Sam McDaddy, the official realtor for Toronto Raptors, as we speak on the importance and future of real estate teams. Discover cutting-edge strategies and trends shaping the industry and open doors to the best networking opportunities of the year. You will be able to connect with top realtors, industry leaders, influential figures, and exclusive Win in Any Market vendors following our speaking event. You can shop and connect to our vendor marketplace, as well as enjoy a networking lunch with fellow attendees to discuss everything you've learned. It doesn't get much better than that, and you have intimate access to all of this for free. This event is known to hit capacity, so don't delay. Secure your spot today. Avoid disappointment. Head to wininanymarket.com to register now. Together, let's win in any market.
Welcome back. I'm Tim Dennis. Rob Golfi is here. It's the Golfi Real Estate Show as we talk about the industry across Niagara, across the Southern Ontario region. And I guess I haven't talked about this in the last few weeks, but we should point out a couple of things. If you've got questions, you listen to the show on a weekly basis. A lot of people will listen while it happens on the radio. Other people will look it up wherever they find their podcasts. You just search out the Golfi Real Estate Show. But if you'd like to hear your question come up on the show, Rob, how do they get a hold of you on a weekly basis?
Yeah, they can go to questions@golfiteam.com, or they can give us a call at 905-641-0308, or they can go to robgolfi.com or golfi.ca, and we're there. You can catch us there anytime.
And you can also find a place to get a kind of a ballpark figure about what your place is worth right now, an estimate?
Absolutely. No obligation. Give us a call, and we will, give you a general idea what a willing buyer is willing to pay for your house. And it's hard to gauge because we're not the buyer, and either is the seller, but we've got a good general idea, but we always try to get you more than what the value is to a certain degree.
Speaking of the buyer, for a long time during the real estate market of the last couple of years, the cliche has been everybody's overbidding on houses. There's, in order to even be in the conversation, you have to overbid. And then it tailed off a little bit. What's happening right now with that situation, Rob?
Yeah, it is happening. And I looked in Niagara. It's about 15% of the homes right now, 16% of the homes right now are actually getting full price or more for their houses. And it's just because they were priced right. And a lot of them aren't holding offers. A lot of them are just like, they're pricing it right, and they're listing it at the right day of the week, and they're getting multiple offers on them. But the thing is, the multiple offer situation is a little smarter. Now, there's always that one guy that's got lots of money in his pocket, and he's probably going to go a little bit aggressive because he really wants the house. Now, the people that really go hard and aggressive on overbidding are the ones that there's a reason why. Maybe they have a family member that lives on the same street or a block over, and they need help with babysitting and stuff like that. So they, maybe the parents live around the corner. They will pay more money for the house because it's going to make their life easier in managing with their kids. There could be a lot of other different reasons people want that neighborhood. Sometimes people grew up in that neighborhood. They want to make sure they're there. There's hundreds of reasons. So, but you're going to get those guys bidding a little more aggressive than just the average buyer walking in saying, hey, I love the house, but I'm not going to pay more than a certain amount. And if I don't get it, I don't get it. We'll just keep looking until we get the right house. So those guys are bidding probably, they're probably going full price. Maybe they might go 10,000 over 15,000, depending how it was priced. But you just you got to be smart now when you're out trying to outbid somebody. And I'll tell you something. This is so important. And some agents may agree with me, but a lot may not. But having the right realtor, being represented by you, especially if it's a reputable realtor, going in competition is going to make a huge difference because they know that if it's a reputable team or a realtor that does a lot of business in the market, they're going to have a tendency of steering towards that realtor because they know they're not messing with a buyer that is not qualified or not pre-approved. They know reputable realtors are going to make sure they go through all the steps to have that buyer qualified before they even put an offer in. So we're not going to waste our time with somebody, just calls us and says, hey, I'm looking to buy a house. Okay, no problem. Let's write an offer. Well, we want to know, hey, we want to know the funds. We want to know you're pre-approved for mortgage. We're not going to just, waste a seller's time and it doesn't qualify and stuff like that. So a reputable realtor, I'm telling you, get that realtor working for you because that can help to make the difference between you getting a house or not getting a house, especially if your bid is very close to another bid.
This may seem like a really silly question, Rob, because it wasn't on the list of things I know we were going to talk about today, but I was thinking about this as I was driving around my neighborhood the other day, and there are all kinds of signs up. I know people who are kind of dipping their toe in the market and putting up signs for their homes are for sale. What is more important as a real estate agent when a house is for sale? Do you get more traffic from putting up a sign on somebody's lawn, or do you get more traffic from putting it up on the MLS?
So the sign is very important. A lot of people sometimes are shy about the sign, and I was that way too. I was that way. Oh, I don't want a sign. I don't want, and the one question people say, no, I don't want a sign. I go, you don't want to sell your house? And they kind of look at you like, yeah, I do, but I don't want a sign. But the sign makes a difference because what happens is when a sign goes up, the first thing people are driving down the street that are looking for that house for sale, they see it right away. They're not trying to guess where if it's dark, they can't see the numbers. Now, the other part is that maybe there's somebody that lives in the neighborhood that knows somebody that wants to live on that street, and they can call, say, hey, Jane, listen, there's a house for sale on our street. I remember you told me about it. If a house comes up for sale, to let you know. So that's it, because that person may not be looking on MLS. That person may not be looking at any online marketing or anything that we have, but our biggest marketing person is the neighbors that see the house for sale, and they're watching it, and they're going to tell their friends or family, and those people tell their friends and family that there's a house on ABC Street for sale, and Golfi has it. And that's how you get people looking at the house. Now, the sign, I'm telling you, is important. And I think it's probably, somebody said it was 15% of part of what makes the difference. I don't know if it's that high, but it does make a difference having a sign on the front lawn.
And I know we've talked about this before, and you laughed the last time I talked about this. But almost every real estate agent that I know, and a lot that I don't know, put their put their pictures on their signs or on their advertising. How important is that? I mean, I'm talking to the guy whose picture is on every square inch of a bus and a billboard in the Niagara region. But how important is that facial recognition? Why do all real estate agents put their pictures on things?
Okay, so I'm the guy that doesn't put my picture on the for sale sign on the front lawn. I'm yeah, exactly. You know what? I think if people see my sign on the for sale sign, I think they'll damage those signs because they're at street level. so they'll probably get damaged. Maybe that's why I don't put it. Subconsciously, I don't put it. No, I think the focus should be on the house. It should say for sale, and there's the phone number and who you can contact. That's it. A picture of me on there is, I mean, what's it doing? It's not doing anything. I know a lot of realtors, they put their picture on there. I just chose not to. The ones that do, I mean, hey, that's fine. But, you're not selling yourself there. You're selling the house, in my opinion. But it's just my thing. And it's surprisingly, especially with my, all the signs that I have, the billboards and buses and all that kind of stuff. Surprisingly, people are probably surprised that I don't put it on my for sale signs in front of people's lawns. But I think the house is supposed to be the one that stand out, not a glamour picture of myself or whatever.
Well, talk to me about that a little bit, because this is the Golfi Real Estate Show, so we should talk about this for a minute. But some people you will hear say, "Well, they're too big a company. I'm going to get lost if I hired the Golfi Team. I'll get lost." Where if I go with somebody who only has, one or two houses for sale this year, then they're going to spend more time paying attention to me. What do you say to that?
No. We've got over 70 agents working with us that live and work in your neighborhood. A lot of times I will bring an agent with me that on a listing presentation, and they work alongside with me to make sure that the service level is there. But we do have agents that live all through Niagara, Fort Erie, Pelham, Welland, St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Grimsby. We have agents that live and work in every single township and city in Niagara, and also right through Hamilton and Burlington and Brantford. We cover a large stretch of areas. And what happens is a lot of times our team members will say, "Hey, have you ever thought about going to, let's say, instead of going to Hamilton, go to Niagara? You ever thought of that?" So we've got things that we can show them that a lot of other realtors can't do, and we end up selling a lot of homes that people decide to go, let's go a different direction. Let's go look at that house. We had, I know, we had one person just recently. They were looking in Grimsby, and we said, "Hey, listen, we've got something in Beamsville that just got listed. I know you weren't planning on going that far down, but take a look at this one in Beamsville." We took them to Beamsville. They looked at it. They bought it. They loved it. They fell in love. They said, "Oh, we didn't even think of Beamsville," because they had a border in their mind as Grimsby to go as far towards Niagara as possible, but they fell in love with it. So that happens a lot with us because we've got houses for sale in every part of the Niagara region, in Hamilton and Halton and Brantford area. So we can accommodate anybody. We have everybody living in those areas that know the areas very well.
Do you get a lot of calls from people outside of Niagara looking to move here? We've talked about, people around here, they're moving to the East Coast, or they're moving someplace where they can get cheap real estate, et cetera, et cetera. But what do you hear from people coming from other parts of the country? What are they looking for when they come here?
Yeah, they're coming this way. The majority of them are from the GTA, but there are a lot of people moving out this way. In Niagara from, the East Coast, West Coast. They are looking, and sometimes we've sold houses without even them stepping inside. We had to do, like a virtual tour. We walk through, we try to give them every detail when we're walking through it. And we make them sign something. They understand that they are buying a house that they haven't stepped into. So they can't, when they come into Niagara and look at the house, even though they firmed up, they can't, say, hey, I changed my mind. They're still under obligation. They signed, a contract that they're buying it. It doesn't happen often, but I've had it happen. Like of all the years I've been in business, it does happen. I'd say at least maybe once every 18 months we get one that buys a house without walking in. They just need to buy a house, and flying back and forth every weekend, trying to look for a house is more aggravating for sometimes the buyers, because it's relocation. And so they just buy a house, and then they stay there for maybe 2-3 years, and until they get the feel of the land, and then they end up moving and going to a house that they can touch, feel, and walk in there.
All things real estate, all things buying and selling, all things that are going on around it. It's the Golfi Real Estate Show. Your home every week for finding out about homes. Let's put it that way. And Rob Golfi is here. My name's Tim Dennis. Let's talk about the other side of the real estate biz, which is tenants and landlords. And of course, we talk a lot about that too, because the two go hand in hand. As real estate goes up, what happens to people who are trying to rent? And there's a new registry of tenants who haven't exactly played by the rules, and actually some landlords who haven't played by the rules either, that's coming around in Ontario. What's this all about, Rob?
So finally, landlords are kicking back. And I'm going to tell you something. This is a registry of bad tenants and some bad landlords, but this is a registry, and the only way you make this registry is if the landlord-tenant tribunal has filed against you. So if you're a tenant and you're not paying your rent, and you're taking advantage of because of the delay in the landlord tenant board, and 10 months later you're eventually evicted and you had a sheriff lock you out, you are going to be put on. If the landlord wants you, he can put you on this registry. The people that own the website, they'll verify that tenant did get evicted and that went through that landlord tenant board. And you can Google their name. You can go on this site, put their name down, and if they have messed around with a landlord, you can say, sorry. They're basically going to get blackballed. So finally, things are catching up. So the one thing about this thing is, Tim, I'll tell you, I created a website many years ago, because the thing about this website was, it was called badtenant.com, but I created it, but I had to be careful in creating it, because I had it on because I had some bad tenants, and I was frustrated, just like all these other people, all these other landlords that have bad tenants. And I I think it was called badtenant.com or something like that. I created it. I even had a spot. So I created this site where you can actually post the tenant's name and their picture, so that like how many Dave Smiths are out there, right? There's probably 500 of them. But you could post their picture and put it into this bad tenant list that I created. And so anyway, as I looked at it, I was talking to my kids, and says, and we had it up for probably about maybe 4 to 5 months, and they said, well, we probably can't put that up because it's my opinion of them as a bad tenant. The difference between what I've created and what these people created, it's an actual eviction. It's an actual thing that the court ruled against the tenant. So there's no lies. This is true. This has actually happened to these people.
People who have had the law go against them, that have broken the rules. This is not just somebody's opinion. This has actually happened.
Exactly. And so it's actually helping landlords find the right tenant. And there's so many cases right now. Like, you have no idea, Tim. Like we have a seller that wants to put the house up for sale. They got a tenant in there. They end up selling the house, and guess what? The tenant's not moving out. In some cases, they're not paying the rent. In some cases, they are paying the rent, because they know by the time it goes for the court hearing that they got 10 months that they can get away with. Now, this is going to be this is going to be very tough for some of these tenants. Like, they may get 10 months out of somebody, but they're not going to be able to find another place to rent, especially, and this is going to go viral. Like, I'm going to tell you, like, we're opening up a property management company, and it's going to be called Golfi Property Management. We're going to be using this as part of the form to make sure that we get the right tenant for our clients that want us to manage their property, because we don't want somebody that's going to take advantage and have our landlords go insane by somebody not paying. And I've been there. And I think this is good. And this is also good for bad landlords. Like, you may not want that to move into that place because he's not taking care of the bed bugs and the spraying and the rodents and everything else like that. We need to have something that protects people, and this is one thing. Obviously, this is going to be more heavy on the tenant side of finding how bad they are, and versus the landlords.
But there will be obviously the other side of that. Obviously, there's some bad landlords as well who haven't fixed things up, even though they've promised to, or they've changed rental prices and that kind of thing without having approval to do so. So there's the other side of the coin too, right?
Absolutely. But you know what? But you know what's causing a shortage even of rental properties is landlords are getting out of it. They're saying, you know what? We don't want to deal with this. Like the government's doing nothing for the landlords, and as this landlord tenant board becomes like, it's almost like 10 months to a year before you get a hearing. And if you make one tiny mistake, you could write a name wrong, or you could not put a comma or not put basically you're back at the bottom of the list again. And I find that is a little bit wrong, because we know these people. We know, it's insane how they run this thing, and they got to change it. And I hope Doug Ford does that. But the one thing is, it is affecting the market for rentals, because people are not wanting to buy properties to rent out anymore because of this. People, like, you know how many people say, "Hey, no way, I don't want to deal with that crap. I'm not interested in dealing with a bad tenant." Now, I've had bad tenants in the past, and but I haven't had one that really got me for 10 months yet. And knock on wood, I've been lucky. And usually the ones that have those problems are the ones that people want to sell. So if you're going to buy a property and you and want to rent it out, listen, hang on to it. Look at the long term. Make sure you raise their rents every year. And if they move out and they give you 60 days notice, that's when you decide whether you want to sell it or you want to keep it. And if you're going to rent it out again, then you got that person might be there 3 to 5 years, and then you got to just hang on to it, so you'll have no headaches. But if you're going to evict somebody, and it's tough evicting somebody out of their house that they made their family, they got to know the neighbors and their schools and everything, and all of a sudden you tell that tenant, "Hey, sorry, I'm selling. I'm gonna take the profit, but you're gonna have to be inconvenienced." I get it. It's not, they don't want that. And I've got rentals where I had one lady ask me, and I probably said this on the air before. She said to me, she goes, "Rob, the last house we left, they sold, and we really wanted to raise our family here." And I gave her a promise, and I said, "Listen, as long as you're living here, I will not sell this place." And I'm going to keep that promise. And you know why? Because I get it. She pays her rent on time. Her and her husband, they got a kid growing up there, going to the same schools as their friends. So I made that commitment to those people, but I'm going to profit from those people. They're paying me rent. They're paying down my mortgage. The equity of the house is going up. That's what you do if you want to be a landlord. You can't, don't buy and sell fast and kick somebody out. I had one house that I had, it burned down. People probably know. The tenant burned it down. He kind of had a grease fire and fell asleep. Thank God the smoke detector went off, woke him up, burned the house down. I had it renovated. The insurance paid for it to get renovated. Thank God he had tenant insurance, because his tenant insurance paid for it, because it was his fault. And what happened there was, I was ready, wasn't sure if I wanted to rent it back to this guy. So I paid him to say, "Hey, listen, I really don't want you. If you want this place, I'm going to sell it." Because I just didn't want this guy, because after I saw how he carried himself in this house, it was a mess. I'm not going to have this brand new house now and have him wreck it. So I said, listen, here's some money. But I kept it empty because I wasn't sure if I was going to sell it because I didn't want to put a tenant in there and then have to evict them. So I actually kept it empty for probably a good 9 months before I decided what I wanted to do with it. And I did end up selling it. And I didn't have to evict anybody. I didn't put anybody in there, and I didn't have to evict anybody. I sold it, and everybody was happy. Nobody got evicted. So that's the thing is, if you're going to be a landlord, go in for the long term. Don't go for the short term. It's not worth it. And you won't have those tenants not paying.
Out of curiosity, you mentioned the situation with the house that burned down, and he had tenants insurance. Is it required as a tenant that you have tenants insurance? Is there a law that says you have to have? And if you don't, are you, as the landlord, are you on the hook for that?
Well, we make it a requirement that every tenant has tenant insurance. If they don't, okay. I mean, like we ask for it every year. Just say we need to see your policy, because like if they do something, we can go after them for it. Like like the house that burned down. My house that burned down, if he didn't have tenant insurance, I would have been covered. But that's a scratch against me. That's like a point against me. My insurance company sent me back my deductible because they got paid by the tenant insurance for the damage. Now, that tenant may have a hard time getting tenant insurance because he fell asleep. He basically, it was his fault for burning a house down.
Yeah. Real quick, because I know there's a lot of misinformation about this and a lot of myths about it. If you're a landlord and you have a tenant that doesn't pay you the rent this month and then doesn't pay you the rent next month, how easily can you evict people? How long a process is that?
Well, you've served them a notice, usually by the 5th day of the month. They didn't pay by the 1st. And you got a gut feeling. It just depends on the character. If they haven't paid, you send a form to them indicating within 2 weeks they have to make a payment. If they don't make a payment, then that's when it gets registered to the landlord tenant board, and then that's when you start the eviction process. Because if they're not paying, and they can pay partial payment, but it's not the full payment, you still can take them to for eviction. And so. And that's when it starts. That's when, the bad blood starts between the landlord and tenant. And everybody has tough times out there. But if the tenant is honorably, genuinely, sorry of not be able to pay the full rent, but he's trying, and you find his record, you'll work with the guy. But if he's like, hey, I'm taking advantage of this opportunity, because the landlord tenant board's 10 months away, you know what? Those are the guys that you have to work aggressively and get your lawyer or paralegal just to try to evict that guy as fast as you can. And it can be costly. Now, if he's paying $2,600 a month on a 3-bedroom, 2-story, 2,500 square foot house, it could be $3,000. And that adds up real fast in 10 months. It's, he could end up owing you $30,000. And then your legal costs and everything going after this guy, like it adds up fast. And there's professional scammers out there, and you gotta pinpoint them. That's why I get a driver's license, photocopy of their driver's license. I get everything from these guys, because you know what? If these guys are gonna come and mess and defraud me, I am going to go after them. I'm going to get collections after them. They will not ever be able to buy a car or even get a cell phone or anything if they ever have to apply for something, because it'll show on their credit bureau that they owe money for not paying rent. So that's why I get I get all the information from these guys.
Okay, so we talked about renters who sometimes get behind. Sometimes it's legit. They've out of job. They've lost jobs or run into medical bills or what have you. It's not just that. Sometimes it's people with mortgages that are going into arrears as well. And are the stats on mortgages going up? People in arrears on mortgages, are they going up?
You know what? The stats that they've got now, I think they're not real, because there's a lot of B lenders out there and a lot of private lenders. So right now in Canada, there's over 5 million mortgages in Canada. Now in Ontario, there's 2,188,795. So there's in Ontario, there's 2,600 that are in the arrears right now. Okay, that's only 0.12%. So it's not that big. They're, but I think the private lending industry, which is a lot that they don't have the numbers on, it's a lot greater. We've got a couple that we've got as power of sale that we're putting up for sale, and they're big houses too. And a lot of people, business people, they use private lenders to build things and use money and all that kind of stuff. And those interest rates are higher. Those numbers aren't on here. They're not on the stats that they have. But I think it's greater than what the article shows. Like they're saying in all of Canada, it's 0.18% that are in the rears, and. Okay.
And to go into arrears, you have to have not paid for 3 months?
Yeah, I think, once you hit the third month, that's when all the letters from the bank and the lawyers start coming in. But yeah, there's 2,621 in Ontario alone that are in the rears. So chances are they may go power of sale. The homeowners probably tried to sell. Their house is probably worth less than what their mortgage is. They probably can't sell just because they bought it at the wrong time. The interest rates killed them. They got interest rates at 1.5% to 2%. Now it's at over 5%. So they just can't handle the payments, and it's hurting them. And it's tough because these guys, they worked hard to save money and buy a house, and they may not even own a house for another 10, 20 years. And it's sad to see those people go through that.
Rob, we are out of time for this week, but we'll get together same time, same place next week to talk more on the real estate world. If you want to get a hold of Rob Golfi at any time to talk about your issues and what you'd like to know and maybe get into the biz with a house to sell or to buy, how do they get you?
Yeah, just give us a call, 905-641-0308, or just go to Rob Golfi at golfiteam.com, or just go to our website at robgolfi.com.
And we'll be back next week on the Golfi Real Estate Show. Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.